A tale as old as time, or so they say. A white, middle-class suburban kid who grew up with a great family, had a great upbringing, was good in school, was good at sports, getting checked all the boxes, winds up severely addicted and almost kills himself. How does that happen? I don't tell a story because I care that people know it, in the sense that I don't care that people know that I went through this, or that this happened to me, or that this is who I am. I tell a story because I care that somebody like me with the same patterns can see a real healing goal that's worth shooting for. Because when I turned to the internet for guidance and wisdom, I couldn't find anybody I could relate to, and I couldn't find anybody that, even if they are related some to their trauma pieces, I couldn't relate to where they were now. Like, I saw who they were, how they live, how they speak, and I thought, I don't want to be like you, so I'm not going to follow what you say because it's led to you being who you are, and I don't want to be anything like that. And so I never found anybody, and I just stumbled my way, fucking ping-ponged off of everything, scouring the internet. And so I tell a story so that somebody out there with the same patterns can see me, see what I did, see how I did it, and where I am now, and think, this makes sense, this is what I want to shoot for. So this is the story. When I was between 6 and 11 years old, I was sexually abused. I don't really remember it, but I know it's true. Who it was that did it isn't necessarily important, and it doesn't impact anything, or didn't really impact anything, and so I know it happened. I don't really remember it at all. That led to me being a prolific, professional, first team Hall of Fame teenage alcoholic from 14 through 20. It's also important for you to know that I didn't know that I was sexually abused until I was 20 years old. So between 11 and 20, I had no idea that this even happened. I had no idea. And so my drinking career was fueled not by trauma, but by fun. Drinking was fun to me. I loved how I felt when I drank. And because I'm competitive and because I'm extreme, I just used both of those things with drinking. So it became, sneaking beers out of the garage at 14, walking to the park, down a fucking path through the woods, drinking a beer, feeling great, sitting in the sun in the park by myself by the creek, listening to music. It was like one beer, and then 2 beers, and 3 beers, and 4 at a time, and it's like, from there, we go later into high school, and it's like, I'm drinking whiskey because my fucking heroes are all rock stars, and they drink Jack Daniels, or so the legend would say, or have you believe, and so I gravitated towards whiskey. So while every other fucking, high schooler in the Midwest and in the suburbs was drinking fucking cheap, disgusting ass vodka, I'm drinking Jack Daniels, I'm drinking Jim Beam, I'm drinking whiskey out the bottle, like it's supposed to be done. And that progresses to, bringing alcohol into school and getting drunk at school. And I used to have these 2 flasks that would fit in the insides of my jean jacket pocket, and I'd have a bottle of whiskey in my backpack, and take the hall pass, go to the bathroom during class, fucking drink out of the flask, refill them with the bottle on the bag throughout the day. That progresses into, can you get blacked out at school, take a test that you didn't know was coming, finish first, get the best grade in the class, and have nobody find out that you were absolutely blacked the fuck out. Yes, accomplished many times. And so that just progresses. And then into college, it was like, my freshman year was COVID year. It was the fall of 2020 into the spring of 2020. So we didn't have to go to class because everything was online. So all we did was fucking drink, play Mario Kart. It was like a launch pad for my already highly successful career as a teenage alcoholic to just fucking blast the fuck off into space and just go as extreme as I wanted to go with it. And throughout this whole time, in my head, it was fun. It was wild. It was risky. It was thrilling. It wasn't like an escape. It wasn't like I was, crying in my room and the bottle was my savior and all this stuff. I drank because I wanted to, and because it was fun, and because I enjoyed it. Well, long story short, I got to about sophomore year in college, and I had started opening the door to what might be the truth of my life. And what I mean is that I'd begun dabbling in psychedelics a little bit in college. mostly due to my fascination with them when I learned about them on the Joe Rogan podcast in high school. Listening to Paul Stamets and Michael Pollan and talking about DMT and mushrooms and LSD and peyote and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is fascinating because I never did hard drugs in high school because I didn't need to because alcohol did it for me. But this didn't seem like a hard drug to me, like cocaine or pills or Molly does. It's like, this seems like something that's misunderstood. And it seems really interesting. And it seems also interesting in the way that, it's been portrayed forever, but that's not the truth. And usually things that are portrayed one way in culture and the truth is something else, usually there's something there. So I was always curious about that. So I was dabbling in college, and every time I would take mushrooms, like I'll go through the trip and I'll get to the end, which is my favorite part when you're like really in your body and you just kind of feel light and whatever. And I just start to think, I think something's wrong with me. And I don't know what, but I think I think that I actually feel terrible. And I started opening that door, and the more I would think about it, the more I realized, how bad I really felt in middle school, in high school, always, as long as I could remember. And I thought it was just like normal, but I was, really nervous about social situations. I used to have these intense bouts of like nostalgia when I was young, and I never understood, like, on one hand they were thrilling because it was an emotional high, and it didn't matter which emotion it was just an extreme voltage of that, and I loved that voltage regardless of the emotion. But I also remember thinking, like, all through my life without even realizing I was thinking about it, why is a 9-year-old having such an intense longing for a past event that was only maybe like a year or two ago? Like, I thought this emotion was reserved for people in their 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s. Like, what? Why do I feel so hard? And it's like a longing that can't be fulfilled. It wasn't like a bad feeling. Like, it just was so intense and so unfinished. It didn't make sense. And so when I was cracking that door open with the psychedelics in college, I started revisiting how often that would happen to me. And then I started thinking, this is what depression is. This is what they tell you depression is. I didn't believe in depression because when I was younger, everybody was talking about depression. When I was in elementary and middle school and high school, it was like a big conversation. And I just remember seeing people who would claim to be depressed, and I would think, you're not depressed. You just, either something bad happened to you or you feel like shit inside, and so you call it something publicly. And when you do that, you have to stand by it, and you can't let it go, because then it makes you a liar. And so I would see these people who would be like, I'm depressed, I'm severely depressed. And I'm like, you're not, though. You just refuse to let go of a bad feeling you had or have had for whatever. And so I didn't believe in depression, but I started thinking in college, maybe I am depressed. Maybe I am anxious. Like, I do get nervous a lot in social situations. And that's why I love to drink, because it made me not nervous, made me not afraid. It made me feel like it was the only thing that I could do where I could actually just be myself. And then I started to unravel that and think, that's not necessarily healthy, but, whatever. Well, it takes me to a day, sophomore year in college, where I sat down on the couch, rolled a joint. I had nothing to do. It was just a regular ass fucking day. And, I take a couple rips from the joint and I sit back, and in what I can only describe as like milliseconds, my entire childhood flashed before my eyes. And in that short snap of a fingers, I understood what happened to me as a child. I understood how that has imprinted me up until today. And I understood that was the source for all these behaviors that I either didn't understand or was wrong about. Like drinking. Like, I thought it was because it was fun. Well, it was fun to me on one level, but really I had an internal drive that was pushing me to seek such extremes and in certain avenues that would quell this terrible feeling I didn't even realize I was having. So I got down from the couch, or I sat up from the couch, and, now I'm like, holy shit, I was sexually abused, and this is why I was an alcoholic, which I was, and I know that now. Fuck. And it was really intense. And then like minutes after that, after being in shock, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to like kill myself because I know two things to be unmovably true. And the first one is that I cannot live with this knowledge. It was like somebody dropped like a mountain from hell on my shoulders and said walk, and I was fucking pinned to the ground. Like I knew I could not continue forward with this understanding. But then on the other hand, I also knew that I was terrified and could not and would not tell anybody or ask for help. And so I was left in an impasse. I can't move forward. I know that's true. By myself. But I can't let anybody in. And so that means I have to be by myself. In which case, I can't do it. In which case, the only thing left for me to do is to remove myself from life. So I made a decision on like a Sunday, and I'm like, on Friday, I'm hiking Mount Olympus in Salt Lake City, and I'm going to jump off a cliff. And I was like committed because I made that last week a fucking week. I'm like, this is very strange how I went about this because I'm like, okay, I am killing myself on Friday. So it's Sunday now, which means I got to do everything I can to squeeze the last of life out of this week. I'm going fucking snowboarding every time I can. I'm hanging out with every friend that asks. I'm doing everything I can I'm forgetting all the bullshit little responsibilities. I don't give a fuck. I'm doing everything as big as I can because this is my last week. I'm fucking going out with a bang. Well, I also had some friends in from California, and they were supposed to leave on Thursday that week. So I thought, this is perfect. I love these people. They leave on Thursday. I can kill myself on Friday. It'll be like a perfect ending, you know? And so I get to like Wednesday, or I get to Thursday, and I'm like, hey, this is like kind of the last real day because they leave later tonight, and then tomorrow is like, that's the day. Well, then they come back and they're like, something happened with the flights. Like, we don't leave until Friday, or we don't leave until, Friday. I'm like, oh, well, that complicates things because I was supposed to kill myself tomorrow, and you guys are still going to be here tomorrow. So, I'm just going to kill myself on Saturday. Because I can't kill myself when you guys are here, so I'm going to do it on Saturday. Delay by a day. Next day comes, it's like, same thing. I'm like, oh, it's the last day. Whatever. But it's like a last day I didn't think I was going to have. So it's kind of interesting. And then they're like, Friday night comes and they're like, oh yeah, something happened again with our flights. We don't leave until Saturday. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I'm like, well, I moved it from Friday to Saturday, so now I just moved from Saturday to Sunday. But now I'm like in this weird space of time where I don't expect to be alive, yet I'm still alive. And I remember thinking like, this is weird because in my head, Friday was like final. But now we've moved beyond final. And now it's Saturday. And I'm not killing myself until Sunday. And so what am I existing in? What is this weird space of time that I'm in right now? Saturday comes. We don't leave until Sunday. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, now like my resolve is cracked because now I'm like, this is so weird. This is so coincidental that it can't be coincidental. But also, like, I didn't believe in anything at the time, so I'm like, didn't really think about it like that. I just thought about, like, I've just lived, like, 3 extra days now. And, this hasn't really gotten any worse. It's terrible, but it hasn't gotten any worse because I'm still here. So I remember thinking, like, well, it's terrible, and it's as bad as it can get. But maybe that means it can't get any worse. So maybe I should just give it a shot. And like this little sliver of hope just kind of swam right in there and was like, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm going to give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, then I'll kill myself because, whatever. And so that was my like suicide weekend, which was a very strange couple days. And then, they ended up leaving and I ended up not jumping off a cliff and then now I'm like, well, fucking now what do I do? Like, I thought I just went through the hardest part, like suicide. Like people don't even talk about it. They didn't even say the word, and that was like my reality. And now it's like, now I have a bigger problem. It's like, now what do I do? Where do I even start? Do I tell somebody? Whatever. So I ended up telling my parents, and I had to fly home from Salt Lake because, I had stopped eating for like a month. I don't really even remember when I stopped eating, but at the time I normally walked around at like 175, 180 pounds. I flew home after that suicide weekend at 122 pounds. I know it's not like crazy, but I was like full blown starving myself. And so the first month I got home, I was like in bed all day, every day, reintroducing food and trying to like recover from the shock of both the understanding of my past and the fact that I almost killed myself. And so it was like, saltine crackers and fucking bone broth when you're sick kind of thing, just like, you know, slowly building up tolerance to food again. And then it was like, while I'm doing that, I'm like laying in bed all day to just like hurting physically. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what's the next step? Like, I feel terrible, yes, but what am I supposed to do? And so I just went on Google, right? Like how to recover from childhood sexual abuse. It's just like, medical paper, medical paper, medical paper, hospital, inpatient, weird advertising campaign. Like, I'm not doing any of that. That doesn't make any sense. And it's like, okay, we'll try to, how to recover from child abuse. And it's like, videos and articles from people who grew up in the hood who their like stepdad beat them or something. And I'm like, yeah, it's terrible, but like it's not my story. It's not even my patterns. This doesn't relate to me. And it's like, go on YouTube, fucking nothing. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't really necessarily believe in therapy. I don't believe in inpatients. I've seen people go through them and have it not work, and I've seen people go through rehab and have it not work. And so it's like, it's not necessarily the practice that works. It's you and how you go through it that works. So like, technically, I should be able to do this on my own if I do it the right way, but I don't even know what that means. And then I met this woman from Australia who was a psychic medium, and she became my mentor. And it wasn't really because of the psychic shit or the medium shit, but she understood perfectly what trauma is and how it lives. And she, over a course of a couple months, got me to understand that, trauma, PTSD, and addiction, and suicide, and all these things aren't solved with like a medication or a rehab center or like a protocol or anything, because it's your body and your system and everything that's you responded to a dramatic event or many at one point in time and moved into this survival state and never left it. And so you've been living in this survival state that has all these details, and that's the reason for all these things. I'm highly curious, but also very skeptical of anything that doesn't make sense. And I tried to poke holes in the thing that she said, but I couldn't. And because I couldn't, probably for the first time ever that I couldn't poke holes in something, I'm like, this is the most true thing maybe I've ever heard. And so I started listening to her, started learning from her. And again, nothing with the psychic shit, nothing with the medium shit, just like humans. How does humans and scars work? And I started learning from her. And then, that was going on one side. And on the other side, I'm still just like in my parents' house, like every day, removed from society, phone completely off, no social media, deleted from the phone, no answering texts, I'm ghosted from the world. And I'm like, I need to do something. And I don't know what it is. So I went to the gym, started going to the gym. And I didn't know why. I didn't care about benefits. I didn't care about muscles. I didn't care about physique. I didn't care about strength. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I just knew inside me that I need to go lift weights. For whatever reason, it didn't matter. I just knew that was a truth that was undeniable, was that I need to go to the gym. So I started going to the gym. And I've been in and out of weight rooms, like, as an athlete, going through high school, whatever. I kind of knew how to lift, but I'm also a mega nerd, so it was like, I'm all day at my parents' house, I got nothing left to do but learn exercise. And so I began going to the gym. And over a couple months, like kind of body was starting to feel good. I'm still like getting triggered like many, many times a day. I'm just getting blasted with shit, and I'm just like fucking, I'm like taking it on the chin every fucking day. But I'm getting my workout in, I'm getting my meals in, tracking my food, trying to get some sleep, trying to drink enough water, get outside, doing the best that I can. And eventually, my lessons with the woman from Australia progressed to a point where I started to wonder, you know, what about this meditation thing? I think that everybody in the world knows that meditation exists, and everybody has a different idea of what it is. Whether you've seen the kung fu movies, whether you hang around with the granola hippie chicks, whether you're around, high performing athletes that's what they do, or just interesting individuals that are intellectual and this they choose to do this pursuit, whatever it is. So I'm like, all right, I don't know anything about meditation. I don't even know what it is. All I know is that, you fucking sit with the fingers and close your eyes and you breathe. And that's all I knew. And at the gym that I was working out at, there was a sauna in there. So I'm like, perfect, get my workout done, go try this meditation thing out in the sauna. And that is where this story really begins, because learning meditation was the thing that did it. It was the source for everything that helped me recover and built me into the person I am today. Because as I would sit in this hot ass fucking sauna for time, sit up, I didn't even know what breathwork cycles were. I just knew you breathe through your diaphragm, and I just started like trying to hold a breath rhythm while staying still in the sauna. Now, meditation on its own is difficult because you have to be still. Meditation in a hot sauna on the top shelf is very difficult because you add the element of the sauna and the intense heat. And so I started confronting this impasse where the voices in my head would be so loud and so frantic in all directions of get the hell out of the sauna, of you were sexually abused as a child, of what are you doing, you look stupid, of you don't know what you're going to do, you're fucked forever. All these things would like culminate at like this breaking point while I was in the sauna. And I just kept quitting. Like I opened my eyes, fucking I gotta get out of here, And it just over time I started to meet that moment as best as I could. Just chip away at how much longer I could stay in that fire while I was thinking I was going to die. And I would stay and stay and stay. And what kept happening was that the longer that I would stay inside that unbearable moment in the sauna, the more shit would come up. The more of my past, the more of my patterns, the more of my behaviors. And I would understand them because I would think, like it would come up and it would make sense, this leads to this. And I would think, wow, that is true, and then it would be like quit, leave the sauna, whatever. And I just kept having these breakthroughs in the sauna, and breakthrough, but I could never get through this moment. I would always quit a little early. And alongside that, the fitness is going well, and I'm still working with this woman, trying all these therapeutic things, EMDR, EDMR, whatever the fuck it is, and use psychedelics because that's good knowledge in that, trying to use that, and journaling, and health, and shadow work, and child work, and internal family systems, and just going through the gamut of all this shit. But all those things just kind of gave me words to my prison walls, I like to say. Like, it didn't help me move forward at all. It just helped me understand yesterday and the past by extension. And so I was getting all this understanding, but nothing was changing in my life. Like, I was still, get triggered and still feel terrible and get suicidal every once in a while and, want to run to escape and stimulation and whatever. And so that helped, but it just helped me understand. But when I was in the sauna, there was that moment, I couldn't figure it out. And so I just one day, I remember, saying to myself, This might kill me. I might die if I stay in this moment any longer. But it seems important enough. I don't care anymore. I'm throwing my hands up. And I'm just gonna let this fucking fire consume me. And as I got to that moment, 10, 15 minutes in, it's hot as fuck. I still haven't moved. I'm keeping that breath count, whatever. I got inside that moment and I'm staying. I'm anchored into my breath. I'm breathing. I'm letting the thoughts just run through my mind like a current, and I'm just letting everything go. And I got to that ultimate fire moment, and I thought, for a brief second, like, okay, this is it. Like, just stay. And I stayed through it, and it went away. And I was like, what? This thing that was so unbearable, that was controlling me, that was limiting me, goes away. This thing inside that, is frantic and is intense and is overwhelming, it goes away. And I sat there for, a couple minutes longer, just in this empty space. It's just like nothing was happening. And over time I came to understand what that was, but, essentially I figured out that same cycle inside those meditations is the same cycle that's in every little thing that you don't want to do, that your trauma response makes you do. It's the same mechanism of the trigger. It's an internal feeling that grows and grows and grows and grows, and then it gets big enough where you think you can't handle it, and so you do anything you can to escape it, consciously or not. It's the same thing as in the sauna. It's the same thing when you go to an emotional spiral. It's like, this, and this, and lower, and lower, and lower, and eventually it gets so low that you do anything you can to escape it. But it's the same mechanism. And then also, it was the same thing I was running into learning about discipline in the gym. Oh, I don't want to go to the gym today. Why? Oh, because, I don't feel that good right now, and so if I go in the car, I'm going to feel even worse, and then when I get there, I'm going to warm up and realize I look stupid in the mirror, and I'm small, and then blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you end up thinking that you realize that, discipline is just being able to confront the endless spiral towards death and move through it. Because that's what's happening. When you don't want to do something, if you really think about it, you don't want to do it because you think that if you do it, it will progressively get worse until a point that you can't handle. And that's the same mechanism that was in the sauna. And so I began to be obsessed with this mechanism I was finding in the sauna. And I began to get really, really good at staying past that moment and getting to that other side. And when that happened, when that became a skill of mine, just stay, my entire life flipped around because the triggers started to go away. I started to realize that was the mechanism that was showing up. So when the trigger would hit, I would do the same thing that I would do in the sauna. I would just stay still and I would breathe and fucking hold the line. When it came to discipline, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm sore, I'm beat up, I'm tired. Stay, hold the line, let the thoughts run through, let them get as big as they want, and continue to move. And even while you're moving, you can hold that same state where things feel terrible. Okay, hold the line. And eventually it fizzles. It always does. And that led to every breakthrough and everything in my entire recovery process. And it's the reason why, I lift so well, I run so well, I eat so well, I, take care of myself so well, I'm able to be with people so well, I'm good with I understand my emotions. Everything that is good about me right now and healthy and strong is because of what I learned in the sauna and in meditation and finding presence without escaping. And that, I think, is the ultimate recovery process. It is a mix of physical health and learning that skill of staying in silence, presence, breathing, being here and not running. When you can mix those two, you can defeat any trauma, anything, because it all does the same thing. The details do not matter. What happened to you does not matter in the sense that the response is the same. It's the same for everybody, regardless of the voltage of trauma. You have the same patterns, the same trigger, that same internal overwhelming building mechanism is in everything that is causing you pain. You know, if you can learn this and bring the physical body with this is the path that you're looking for. Like the one that I needed, that I found my way to. And that is my story. There's more to come. Everything I just said in the last 5 minutes will be explained over all the rest of the videos from here on forward. But there's a better future than the one that culture tells you for PTSD, for addiction, for trauma, for suicide. There's a better future, and I'm living proof of it, and I'll continue to be living proof of it. And so, even if you never, reach out, you never do anything with me, just pay attention. Just keep tabs on what I'm talking about, because it's not my wisdom. I'm not saying this is my idea, and that's why it works. I'm saying this shit works. I'm just trying to let you know that it works.